Welcome back to the channel, guys. On this episode, we've got a little bit of a toughie in store for you. Behind me, we have Zach's big block Capri. So yet again, this is just another car out of the Aditced Performance stables. And we've got a couple of bits and pieces we're getting ready to do on the rear end for a no prep event coming up in Sydney. So we're going to get this all ready to go so we can head up to Sydney and do a bit of a no prep deal with the boys up there. And we just need to change a couple of things. So this car's very special. It's got a wicked story behind it, and I'll let the boys tell you when they get here, because this is the OG. So not only is it Zach's first car he's jumped into after the junior dragsters, and he's done quite well with it. So we'll make sure to chuck a clip in of the Street Outlaws where he raced Murder Nova just here. So to say that racing runs in the family is definitely the case when it comes to the boys from Aditced Performance. So yeah, super tough car, 540 big block, 3-speed turbo 400, and it runs a 31 by a 13-inch slick on the back. So we've already jumped into a couple of bits and pieces last night. We've yeeted the factory front suspension, and we've mocked up coilover up the front here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the car up, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about what we're changing and how we're going about it and the process of how we do it. So let's jump straight into that. All right, so we're going to be changing a couple of bits and pieces on the back of the Capri. So one of those things we're going to be doing is we're going to be changing the brackets. So we're going to a different bracket with a bunch more adjustment, because the ones underneath it can't quite get to where we need to be. So keep in mind, this car was done a long time ago with a much smaller set of tyres and everything like that. So it was just one of those things that has progressed to where it is. So now we're going to make some changes to bring it up to spec and achieve the things we want to do. So one of the things we're going to be doing is lopping off the brackets that are up here as we speak. So we're going to be cutting them off, and we're going to be putting new brackets that come much lower, so we can get a bar angle that we can do and be able to achieve what we want to do with the car. So what we want to do is pick it up from a different point so we can get that bar angle, so the car wants to use a lot of the weight of the car for the weight transfer and get the load on the tyre for the no prep. So as it sits right now, works great for separation and stuff on a radial, but for the no prep stuff where we want to get that weight over the back, it's not going to do what we want it to do. So by getting this bracket lower, we'll be able to achieve everything we need to do, which will in turn mean we need to make new ladder bars. So once again, ladder bars aren't a 4-link and clearly not a leaf spring. They're just another style. So for those who don't know, maybe just comment below and tell me if you want to know more about ladder bars, 4-links, and other styles of suspension. So we'll make sure to do that if you comment below and let us know what you want to see. So not only that, we're changing ride height. We're also going to be putting a track locator just up here. So this cross member, like I said, was set up for a different setup, and now it's a bit low. So what we're going to do is we're going to be lifting it up just like that, and we're going to be cutting it off and replating the bottom of it just there, so that way it's not so low. It's very dark under here. There's not much I can really do right now unless I'm getting lighting and all that stuff, but we'll make sure to chuck a couple of clips in where I'm pointing and what we're doing whilst we're doing it. So yeah, and once that cross member's done across there, we'll pick up from here, and that'll be our triangulated track locator coming back to these points where we have welded up these little clevises. So we are going to now have to set up the car and get it at the ride height we need it to be. So at the moment we've got the front wheels off. We're still waiting for Zach to come back with the new springs. So we're going to be jumping onto the front suspension a bit later on. But for now, we need to lower it down and get it setting exactly where we need it to be for ride height, so then we can start addressing the things at the back. So we're going to jump into that right now. All right, up front, you'll see, like I said earlier, we've mocked up the front coilovers. This spring is too long, and it's probably not the weight that we want it. So Oh, take that back. This is the weight we want it. It's just too long and we can't get the front end low enough. So what we're doing is we've got some new springs going in, but these coilovers work. And we'll show you the process when we pull this spring out of reassembling everything back together. So we've had to machine up some cups and some adapters for the top plates up here. And yeah, thanks very much to Morgan, who has helped us out in the last minute to get some springs. So you're an absolute champion. We'll be able to smash some new springs in here and then get it to the right height we need it to be for the rear end. So then we should be all good. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to lower the front down. We've got some measurements on the other side, exactly the height that we want it, and then we can go set the rear end up, make sure the clearances and everything in the tub are correct, and then we can go ahead, put some datum points exactly where the bars are now, make sure we triangulate things off the front backwards, and then set up our laser and we'll be able to put the new bracketry in. So we'll go ahead and get that done and we'll show you everything step by step as we go. So let's jump into it. Alright, we got the front all measured up, so they're both the height that we need. But before we go setting the back up and getting it at the right height we need at the back, we're going to address the cross member and the falling brackets. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this piece in here, which she'll sit in just like that. We'll go ahead, we'll weld this up, we'll clean it up, get it all sitting there in permanent position. And then we'll be able to put our witness marks and everything across this, which will also help us getting our ladder bar brackets in position. So we're going to go ahead, get this all tacked in, make sure it's all happy days, and then we'll be able to go ahead, get our laser set up exactly where we need it. So we're going to have to do some plumb bob at the front and run it back on the ground, then run it up just to get it where it needs to be. And then we can go ahead, start figuring out our ride height prior to putting the new falling brackets in. But we'll have to go ahead, cut these out, take the bars out, and yeah, roll the diff back so we can go ahead and get it done. So we're going to do exactly that right now. So we're going to get this bar in and then start marking her up, getting her ready to go. Oh, let's pop under here. All right, so Lockie has tacked the support bar in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and weld that in. So once that's welded in, then we'll be able to cut along this line, cut along that line there, and then we'll be able to put the plate underneath. The reason for we want to weld it in first is we don't want it to have any deflection across that bar. Now, it'll get quite skinny in this area here, and I'm a little bit worried about deflection, and we don't want any discrepancy between the rails and everything like that. It's plenty braced enough, it's just a precautionary thing. So we're going to go ahead, get that welded in, and then we're going to be able to cut the bottom piece off and then tack the bottom plate on and then weld it all up. And then from there, what we're going to do now is we're going to actually measure the diff brackets. So we're going to be measuring the diff bracket from here to here on the center line. And then once we've got the center of that, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our other brackets down here. So these are some brackets that we're going to be modifying for the bolt hole spacing. So a majority of this bracket will actually get cut off. But what we have to do first is we have to go ahead and cut the original brackets off. So these brackets here need to come off, so then we can follow this shape here and then get the shape of the brackets right prior to then putting spaces in between them and then figuring out the distance apart so that they line up with the diff brace or diff brackets. So we're going to go ahead and cut the bars and everything we need to space it all out. So once these are all cut, we can put them on the table, and then everything's jigged up prior to even going in. So then we can remove the bars, weld the plates in, get them all tucked up with our laser and plumb bob, from there we're good to start making some stuff. Alright, so underneath here is all cut. So we're going to be plating that with our plate that we have here. That's just going to be going on like so. We need to prep this and then take some mill scale off of it, so it's going to be a nice weld. But if we change sides, come over here, we'll see, obviously we're not going to have the brackets out there. So these brackets are exactly the spacings we need and the length we need. So we're going to go into this corner, so we're going to turn that 90 degrees, and then we're going to have these holes. We're looking for an inch off the rail, but because it comes in and tapers in like that, what we're going to do is we're going to knock this bit off, and then we're going to put a taper from that point down, so then they sit in the right spot. Once this one sits in the right spot, we'll be able to make all of them the same, and then from there, then we'll be able to put our datum points on the ground, plumb bob it, pull it across, then make sure that these are all square with the front of the car. A lot of people have had different cracks at doing bits and pieces and what like that. So this time we can make sure that they're all square and happy days, and then we can work off exactly what we're doing for the right bar length. So we'll go ahead, get these cut up, bang them up here, and then we'll make some progress. Alright, so here's our brackets. We've got our mark where we need it to be. So we've worked out that it's roughly, once these two bolts go in here like this, to make them all the same, we can rest this up against those bolts. We can put our mark in, just like so. And then remember, we're gonna put him across. So what we'll do is, from here, we're just gonna come, see it's bottom of both holes, mark him across, and that'll be our cut line, the inside ones. And that, once we get them like that, we'll be able to figure out that angle, which is on the bottom of the rail there as it comes down. And then once they're all the same, we know that we can put our spacers in between them. We mock up the centers of the diff brackets that are already in place, and then we can transfer that to the chassis rails. And then from there, once it's all tacked up, we can figure out our bar geometry, we get our pinion angle right, and then we'll be able to start the welding process and get all this together. So let's get these cut up. Alright, it's a little bit dark, but I'll show you what we're trying to achieve here. So I've got both the front and the rear of the car on the center jacks, and the center jacks have got it all square with the hoist. So the hoist, we've had a measure, it's fine. On the locks, it's perfectly fine where it needs to be. It's got a full chassis underneath the car that connects the front to the back, and it's pretty good for where it is. So then we've got our box section that has spaced it up and given us the height that we need for these brackets. And we've got a little jig. If you want to go back to one of the turbo tank episodes, and then you'll see how we go about setting up our brackets to get them all true and even. That'll show you how we got to this stage. But now we're ready to tack it in. So we're going to tack these brackets in. Once these brackets are in, then we can go ahead, get our diff where it needs to be. So we'll get our pinion angle where it needs to be. We'll get the center of it, get the diff centered with the tires, and then we'll get our ride height and everything sorted. Then we'll be able to draw up our bars. So we'll be able to get our ladder bar in position, and then we'll go ahead, tack that on the table, figure out where all that goes, and then we can go ahead and make sure that everything's happy days. It's where the angle needs to be, it's the ride height, remembering that the tires are going to expand and get bigger and make sure there's no clearance issues or anything like that. Then we can go ahead and start welding some bits and pieces up. We might even jump onto our track locator after that and tie it off to the front here after that, but we'll just see how we go. So we're going to go ahead, tack this up, figure out our bar angles, and then get this triangulated track locator in place. So let's jump into tacking some things up. We have our plumb bob, and then we're going to measure the front. So what we're going to do is go off some of the suspension components at the front here, and then we're going to be able to drop our plumb bob onto the ground, set it up to the back. Once that's sorted, we'll get the laser lined up with those measurements. Once those measurements are all good, we'll be able to triangulate it back to where the diff is, to where we're going to be sitting our brackets up on our bit of steel that goes across the hoist, and then we'll be able to make sure everything's nice and square so the car doesn't have any steer when it's all neutraled out, and then it's all going to be coming down to preload and everything like that we do with the bar work to make sure that the car goes straight with a bit of rear steer or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the plumb bob now, drop those marks down onto the ground, triangulate that back to make sure that our brackets are where they need to be and make sure the rails are where they need to be as well. So we'll smash that out now, then we can go check out a little bracket setup that we've got at the back. Alright, so we've got our brackets in position up here. So they're all tacked in, they're all nice and even, they're all nice and solid. We've got a heim joint on this side to start figuring out our bar angle we're going to have. But what we've got to do first is, Lockie's just ripping out the shocks as we speak. He's going to take the springs off of them, and then we're going to be able to lower the car to ride height, which we've got a couple of stoppers up there, which will dictate our ride height where we want it. And then we can go ahead, get the wheel in the middle. So we're governed by our tail shaft as well. It was already pretty good in the middle, so it's going to be fine to go off that. Then from there, we'll set our pinion angle in the diff. So after the tyres are even in the car, in the wheel tub, from here to there, and the track is the same as the front, so it's nice and square. Once that's just sorted out, then we can rotate the diff. As you can probably see like this, we can rotate the diff to the pinion angle we need. We've got this here as just a safety because we've got no arms in it at the moment. So we've got one here and one at the back, so the diff isn't going to just roll on us. But then we'll be able to dictate our pinion angle and our track all sorted, and then we can go ahead and measure our arms and then get our bar measurements where they need to be. And then after that, we'll be able to address a couple of other bits and pieces that we need to change. But Lockie's whipping the shocks out. I'm going to start taking some measurements on the wheels, and then we'll get it in the center of the tub, and then the center of the tub widthwise. Perfect. We'll be able to make some arms up. So we'll go ahead and get that done, and then we'll jump straight back into it with the bar measurements. All right, over here we've got our top part of the ladder bar coming together, which is, we're just cutting a big angle on it. So we, it gets close in the vicinity of how we need it to marry up to that, the bottom bar. And then over here, everything's coming together slowly but surely. We've got our bottom bars all tacked in, or mocked up, I should say. Lasers in position, everything's still lined up. That also helps locating the center of this track locator shaft as well. Along with that top bar is going to go from up here and marry out down to here. So we're just putting a little one on it now so that we can get it in place, and then that way we can start figuring out our braces and everything that goes in between them. For now, we'll keep mocking these up, and then we can start figuring out exactly where our wishbone's going to go, because we can't have that fouling on the tail shaft, and we also can't have that fouling and locking up anywhere else. So we'll get these cut, we'll get these in position, and then we'll quickly see where we stand then. All right, we're back on Zach's Capri. So doing a bit of a late night special here. Zach's just pumping up the tyres at the moment, and you'll see we've got the car on the scales. So what we're doing at the moment is, you'll see there's no springs on those coilovers up there. So what we're actually doing is we're scaling the car so we know what weights that they are, and then we're going to do all of the unsprung weight as well. So the unsprung weight will be anything that's not connected to the chassis via an arm or suspension component or anything like that. It's the unsprung weight. So then we can dictate exactly what we need for the car and for everything that we're going to do with the car too. So it's just kind of like a ballpark thing. It's not something that is indicative of being, yep, that's exactly what you need. We know the ride height we want, which is what, Zach?
All the way low.
That's it, low. And then we also know the stroke of the coilover as well, so we can work all that out when we get our weights right. So right now we're going to bang it onto the scales, see what the overall weight is, and then we're going to check the unsprung weight, and then we'll be able to choose what size spring and what rate we have, because we do have an abundance of springs down here to choose from, but we might have to order some as well, because the front springs aren't 2.5, are they?
Nope.
They are 3-inch, as Zach has just found out. Zoom in on that. So, and after that we're going to jump into the story behind the car. So we'll quickly get this done, and then we'll jump into that. All right, so we've just gone to edit the video for the purple Capri, and I never got to tell the story or talk to you guys about the story, how this car came about and why it's a little bit of a special car, like I said at the start of the episode. So we're here with Danks, and he can tell a little bit of the story of how it came out of your hands, into your hands, and then out of your hands again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so tell us the story about this.
Bought it when I was 16 and a half, 17. Just as a bare shell, and then built it up over a few years and had a cleaner in it, mini tubbed. Then we fully tubbed it, progressed along with it, painted it this colour when I was 20,
Yeah.
19, 20.
It's about 90 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, back when Adam was a boy.
Yeah.
And then, family, start up a business, family, can't afford stuff.
Yeah.
Had to sell it.
All the responsible choices.
Yeah, had to sell it.
That's it.
Sold it off, went to somewhere in Mildura, Albury. somewhere up there. Forgot all about it. And then probably a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago.
Probably a bit longer. 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
That's
Wow.
Why don't you come up here and talk about it too?
5 years ago, yeah. Jason from Shotgun, who's next door to us,
Yeah.
actually bought it, and I said, "That's my car."
Yeah.
And I just harassed the out of him until he sold it back to me.
Absolutely. So anyone that doesn't know, the Fairlane that's on all the other episodes is Jason, which happens to be next door to Addicted Performance.
Yeah.
So it stayed in the family.
Yeah.
Such.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you finally got it off Jace?
Yeah, we finally got it off Jace. It was basically the way I sold it, just a roller. So it sat there for a couple of months, and then I thought, got to get Zach into something.
Absolutely, because you were in...
I was doing nothing. I was in an off period from the juniors.
Out of the junior.
Yeah.
We'll bang a couple of photos of the junior drags. They're cool things. They're cool things.
Full billet engine, single cylinder.
Yeah.
That's the go.
Yeah.
100%. And you jumped straight from the junior drags into this?
Into this.
What was your first time slip for the day?
The first time was a 18 or something because I didn't shift first.
Yeah.
And then the second one I went a 990.
His first full pass was a 990.
Well, it was my second full pass ever.
I know people that have been in the industry for a long time that haven't even ran a 990.
Yeah.
So
bypass the 10s altogether.
Yeah.
100%.
Backed up 1,000 foot because I was on the rev limiter for too long. I just broke the car in the meeting because
There you
blew
go.
the box up.
you skip the 10s and then you skip the 8s. That's it. But but what's the combo now?
It's got a 540 big block, just a very basic engine. Very basic. It's got a bit of gas in it, just a little bit.
Yeah. Good friend of ours had an engine sitting around.
Yeah.
And I rang him up and I said, "What are you doing with that engine?" He goes, "Why?" I said, Zach we wanted to get the car going for Zach. Just take it.
Yeah.
And we'll work it out later. So yeah, he was an absolute legend.
He is.
Yeah. So within finding about the engine, within 2 months we built the car and was racing in it.
Yeah.
New cage, new
Put a new
windscreen,
cage in it.
new tin work, exhaust, everything.
Absolutely.
So,
What was the first event?
Ford Nationals at Heathcote.
Yeah.
And then after that, I put a shoot on it after that, and then we did Portland.
Yeah.
So I'm testing at Portland.
Yeah.
Doing the 8 stuff.
Yeah.
But it's definitely.
And then come to you,
we gave it a bit of a revamp.
Update it from
1912 when he was doing cars.
30 years ago.
Absolutely, but it's come up wicked and it sits mad.
Yeah.
And it's got, like I said, it's got that OG vibes about it with the colours and all that stuff. But it's definitely a car that,
it's cool.
it still does really competitive and does all the things it should do.
Yeah.
So
816 is its best.
816 is very good.
165 mile an hour. It's awesome.
125 60 foot, so it's still tame in the first half.
That's all right. But we're going to sort that out.
Plenty more to go.
We're going to sort that. I promise you. We'll have more.
Gas will sort that out.
That's it. But we just wanted to show you how kind of special the cars can be, and there's always a bit of a background story and all that stuff to a lot of the cars we get to do. And yeah, this one being special, what are the chances of Jace buying it and then getting it back and all that stuff?
I actually have a photo of Zach as a baby sitting on the bonnet hugging the scoop.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the best. Staying in the family now though, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Never.
But happy days. But glad we got to show you the story on the car and why it's special and whatnot. But next on our next video, you'll see it doing a bit of no prep and see how she goes there.
Yeah.
So what's the next event?
I don't know.
We got something big coming next, so
Yeah.
that's what's happening.
Absolutely.
This should probably sit on the side for a little bit. We've got something massive happening now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that'll be good.
We'll see what happens.
So done. All right. Well, let's jump back into it. So she's on the scales, full boatload. So we've got fuel in it, everything, and we've chucked Zach in it, and we've taken him out as well. But as she sits, she's around about 2,600 pound. So for those who want to know what kegs is, kilos, 1,100 kilos. So, but me and Zach are just going to figure out exactly ride height, because that is how we want it to sit. But it can't. So the reason why it can't is the tub interference. So right now it's just barely off the tub. So we're going to have to raise the car up so the tyre, when it expands, especially these aren't too bad. The real soft wall ones, soft wall tyres, no good. They'll stand up very straight and they'll grow and expand quite a bit. But the front, that's where we want it. That's where we want it. So what we're going to do is we are going to figure out how we're going to do that. I reckon we're going to cut the collar on the coilover and we'll lower that down probably about 2.5 inches from where it is, so we know that we can get that height and whatnot. But we've also got to figure out how much throw we'll have by lowering that down, because we might not have enough stroke on the insert of the coilover. But we're going to do that now. We're going to sit this up at ride height and we'll be back in just a sec. All right, that is ride height set. And we've looked at a bunch of other bits and pieces. So what are we going to do to the front struts?
Change them.
Change them.
Again.
Yes.
And again.
The things you do to get things right. But we've got another set of struts down here. Thanks, Dill. We've got another set of struts just down here. The coilover mount there is actually 45mm or so lower. So we'll be able to get that front end lower, which is where we got it set now. Where we've got it set now is completely bottomed out onto our machine bushes. So we know that that's no good, can't run the front end like that. But yeah, no, it's definitely looking the part. Ride height looks good. Front coilovers are in. Zach's all got them together. We've just sat it up where we want it. Still got travel on the shock, making sure it doesn't bottom out, as well as getting the back set up. The back's got so much more adjustment than the front that we don't really need to figure that out. We can make the shock work where we want the ride height, but that's also going to be relevant when we put it back on the scales and figure out where we want our weights. So same as a seesaw, once it's on a straight plane, it's all good, but the second you put weight down on one side, it's going to change the percentages front to back. So we need to make sure that we get it where we want it, which we can divulge later. But for now, we'll get this where it needs to be. Now, we're going to take the front wheels back off, put it back on the two lifting beams in the middle, and then we're going to pull this rear end out. So we're going to lift the car right up. We've just written down where our measurement is from the hoist to the sill. So that's the blessing of having a 4-post. We can set all that up. No variables change. So then we can lift this all up, pull all the wheels off, and then we can go ahead and address the stuff in the back. So what do we jump? What's on the list? Got to pull the diff out, clean up a bunch of stuff under there, and then we're going to cut out the anti-roll bar that's in it, and we're going to put a new one in it. What else is there?
Datum points.
Yeah, we have to. Right now, we're writing down all of our reference points. So we'll be able to put our measurement devices, 150 by 50 RHS. We're going to bang these across the hoist, and then we'll be able to measure from there up to find out exactly where we're going to do it. So when we put the diff back in, we get everything centered, then we won't have the wheels on there as our little datum point to reference to. So we're going to have to measure from the diff up. So we're going to jump in, get all those measurements now, write them all down, and then we'll be able to pull the diff out and start addressing everything in the back. We'll jump into it. So, big boots are out. And without anything in here, she looks awfully spacious. So, while we're in here, we're going to be cutting this one out. That was a very impromptu, last-minute throw-in, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was about 12 o'clock on a Friday night.
But racing's racing, and you got to get things done. So he's coming out. We're banging a new one in, along with fixing up a couple of bits and pieces that are damaged. And like I said, doing a bit of cleanup. But transmission's all plugged up. Along with now we can get great access to all this stuff. So we can go ahead and touch a few things up and get it all ready, and then we can address the diff. We're going to jump on the diff and cut all these mounts off. Unnecessary shock heights, we can cut them off because we're not going to use them at that height, and then we can go ahead and fix a couple of the mounting holes in the diff. So now that that's out, we can go ahead and get that sorted too. So it's all looking the part, really. Just got to get it done. So we'll jump into it step by step and we'll smash it out. All right, so falling, ladder bar brackets are in. So ladder bar brackets are in, both sides, welded in the middle too, up and in there. And we've got our track locator bung all in there, nice and pretty. So that's all welded, these are all done. When I pull these spacers out, I'm just gonna do a couple of bits and pieces that I can't get to with the spacers in. And then happy days, that'll be all good. We've got our old anti-roll bar cut out, so we've got our pads up here for our new one, ready to go. Lachlan's just gonna jump on to cutting a bit more of these sill panels out. So we're gonna cut it through there, across, out there. I'm gonna pull that piece off, and then we're gonna cap it at the end here, nice and neatly, so our tires have no issues touching them. So get them cut off, and then we're gonna jump onto the next bit, which will be moving these lines out the way, dolly that out the way, clean up a couple of bits and pieces, get this seam sealer up in these bits and pieces that are separated, seam seal all these good stuff, and then we're going to jump on to flicking everything with paint. We're going to give it a little flick of paint, everything should be sorted. And then over here we've got our ladder bar on the table. Everything's happy with this, so what we need to do is get everything mocked up in the car, but first we have to wait for paint to dry. It's getting a little bit cold out here, so we've got the patio heater on up here, and then we've got our diff down here all painted. So we did have another diff on its way, but we can't get it in time, unfortunately, because we want to put a new housing and everything in it. We can't get it done before we have War in the Sticks. So War in the Sticks is an MPRA event that we're getting ready for. So there's a couple of us going, and Zach's Capri is definitely one of the cars we want to be taking. So we have to get this all finished up in the next couple of days, and then get some testing in before we do it. So that is the diff that we're going to be using for now. We've made it work, we've doubled up on a couple of bits and pieces, but we know that everything is going to fit with the new housing. So we're going to get this all done, get it all painted, then we can start reassembling and get all these arms right before we can make them permanent. So let's jump into that. It's getting awfully late, so I'm about to call it. But let's see what we got up to and where we ended up. So she's all painted underneath, and we've got our little extra tail shaft loop in place. All the lines have been run, new seam sealer and everything like that. We did go inside and we riveted some of the tin work in that had separated, so now it's looking much better. All the lines are run. Just need a couple of P-clips at the top there and whatnot, but it's coming together. It looks the part. So it's a little bit on the piss at the moment, but it's only because I've got that up trans jack up overnight. But it's definitely looking the goods. We've got to put the stabilizers in just between these two here and whatnot, but I need to get the pinion angle and everything right. Got our shocks at 90 degrees, they look good. Yeah, track locator's got a nice angle to it as well, got it nice and straight on the shaft, so it's doing everything it needs to do. So we'll pick up in the morning and maybe run through then, but it's bedtime. I'm going to be home to have something to eat and go to bed. Alright, so diff is 99.9999% done. All sealed up. Zach's banged some oil in it. It's all the nuts and bolts are done up. This is looking happy days. Now we have finished up the ladder bars. So here are the new ladder bars all done, welded up. So we've got the safety chain bracket on it as well. Zach's just getting the other ones. We should weigh the difference. We should take the heim joints out, chuck them on the scales. We're going to do that. We're going to chuck them on the scales. So they look different, but in all, when you got the new adjusters and everything on them, they're the same. Well, actually, they're a little bit different. Doesn't matter. But there you go. Old and new. These very heavy. These not so much. Beautiful. All right. And underneath the car. So got the laser all set up. So you can see the little green line it's shining up here, and we're just getting the anti-roll bar sorted. So we're using a Mood Motorsport anti-roll bar. So going through here, you'll see the center line of where everything lines up, and that's going to be right where we need it for the diff. Zach's just finished up cutting the tube, and here's the billet ends. So as you can probably see there, Mood Motorsport, fancy. Done. Darren does awesome products. So that's that. Now we're going to put our tube in. We'll tack these ends in. We'll put our tube in, and then we'll be able to slide the arms on, and then we can start the process of fitting everything back up. So then we'll fit everything back up. We'll get our wishbone and everything sorted, and then everything comes out one more time to final paint it all. So we might even paint. We might paint the arms. Probably not. Do it all together. Alright, we're going to paint them all together. So we'll jump onto that, smash that out, and then we'll put it all back together. Alright, we have got everything pretty much well mocked up for the rear end. So we've got our center line with our laser here, which is tied to the front, and then we've dropped the plumb bob from our front anchor. So just up there, we hang the plumb bob up and over the locator for the axle, because the axle's not going to move. That's our little datum point we're using. So that comes down to the ground, and then on the ground we can plot out exactly how the car's steering. So with big power cars, they're going to naturally want to go to the left and whatnot, and then there's a bunch of work that goes in that, but got a little formula for how much horsepower and how much weight, and then we kind of work it off that with our rear steer as such. But at the moment it's just about making everything square, so we know our anti-roll bar and our track locator and everything is square, and then we'll be able to make some adjustments after we go to the track and figure out where they go. But we're just squaring everything up as we speak with what we have, and then we can get our track locator exactly how it needs to be. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to apply what we have on the ground back up onto the car. So we've made our adjustments, it's sitting where it needs to. We need to pull the housing naturally where it's sitting. It needs to come 15 mil across this way. So we're just gonna put a little bit of pressure on our little ratchet strap, pull the housing across 15 mil, and then we should be able to start making our track locator. So that way, when the car has all of its travel, we know that that's going to be center the whole time, because we know our anchor point and our diff is never going to change. So we're going to jump into that. We'll put the sleeve on the shaft of the track locator, and then we can go ahead and make our arms and everything tack to it. So we'll jump into that and yeah, show you what we're doing along the way. All right, so I know we've touched base on this on another episode, but we'll show you again. So here we have a different style of track locator. Here we have a machined bit of chromoly, which also has these little slider bushes that go inside. Now these are a bronze lined, I'm not sure how good you can see that, but a bronze lined sleeve that goes inside. So we'll pop them in place, we'll get them in place, and then what we need to do is, this shaft, we do need to get some surface rust off of it, but this shaft needs to go in there nice and tight, but still be able to freely move. So what we need to do is, we'll get that in place, and then we use our reaming tool. And this reaming tool, you can probably see there's a lot of bronze on that, but this reaming tool, we pop that in place, and then we slowly wind it out to suit, and then we make it so it is a perfect fit for our shaft. And then we'll be able to use our shaft as a locator for the rear of the car. So this is going to stop the car from going side to side. So we'll get this in place, we'll get it in the vise, and we'll start reaming it until we get a perfect fit. I'm gonna grab my pointer. All right, so pointer's in hand. So we've got the rear end where we need it. So I'll show you the little bits of pieces that we've done to figure out where the diff is. So we've zeroed off our little inclinometer in here, so it's 0, 0. And then we've come up to our axle flange and we've popped it on there, and we've got 89.6. And we've got 90 on this side. So keeping in mind that we're pulling it across a little bit, that 0.3 of a degree, there's going to be a little bit of axle float and everything in the housing and everything like that, so it's as close as it needs to be. But we're all true and square every other way. So we've done our little datum points on the ground. We've got our little datum points on the ground, which have dictated where all of our axle ends and chassis points are. We've dropped them down and we've pulled the diff across that 15 mil, which in turn ended up, we zero that off again. Zeroed that off. Now we got to our shock and we've got 89.7 on the shock and 90. So shocks are as straight as they can be without changing them in the floor, which we're not going to do. So we're pretty much at the best situation that we can be. And now we've got our laser. So our laser is shining a light. It's very hard to see with this light and that light and all that stuff. But if we bang it on our ruler, which we can see here, we run that right along the side of the ruler. Once we get it there, just block that shadow. So there, we know that our track locator is nice and straight. It's nice and even the whole way down the middle of this. So we know that these points triangulate to there, nice and straight and nice and even. Now we'll be able to tack this in place, and then we can chuck our bracing in, tack it all together, and we'll go ahead and tack this in place. We'll put one of our braces in, and then we can be able to transfer that onto our jig, weld it all up, and then we know that when this bangs back in, it's going to keep the center, or keep the diff nice and center. So let's tack some of this stuff together. It's going to be another late night. Another 12 o'clock night coming right up.
And we still got yours to do.
Oh. Still need him done too. There's a lot to do on that. Seeming there's no pipes on it. Woo. But Wishbone's all done, all welded up under here. So Zach made the executive decision to leave cool welds on it and WD-40 it. But that's in, all welded. Everything's pretty much in. Just do the bolts up now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then anti-roll bars in, up the top here. Everything's pretty well sorted. We've got the pinion angle as close as it needs to be for mock-up. And then once everything's done up, we're gonna get the brakes back on. We need to re-shim everything to get the caliper where it needs to be. And then after that, it's put the wheels on, put it down, figure out ride height and a couple other bits and pieces, and then we can get the shaft in, tail shaft, pinion angle. Yeah, chuck it on the scales. Chuck it on the scales, see what we need to do and where we need to put some weight for the no prep. So those who haven't seen the no prep, no doubt there was going to be a YouTube and everything about it, so make sure to jump on and watch that. Hopefully watch Zach come home with a win.
6.5 grand.
That's it. But nah, it's looking good. Let's check it out. Capri's on the ground. She's so fat. Alright, now I've had to sit back and admire how fat this is sitting. So I'll see if we can find an old photo of how it's sat. We'll pop her up here. But it's sitting very good. What do you think?
It's perfect.
I like it. Now we're going to chuck it on the scales because it's been set up for a prep track. We're just going to see where the weights are now that everything's been changed and see how much load we got on the wheels and everything. If we need to crank up one of the bars to get a bit more weight over the back, or a weight on one of the tyres, or we'll see where our split is because we want to get a bit more weight over the back for what we're about to achieve with the bar angle we've got. So we're going to do that. We're going to chuck it on the scales, see where our split is, see where our weight distributed over the front, see where we're going to have to add weight because we will have to add some weight, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so that is the Capri done. She's sitting pretty. We skated her last night. We got it where we think it needs to be for no prep. We've never used this car on no prep, so we've done low prep, but man, how good does that look? So this is all done. We've got one more thing to do, and that's get the VK running. So we're way behind schedule. But we'll get there. So Capri's going to get picked up, get loaded up in the truck, and then the next time you see it is at no prep.